Welcome to Apex Esports League. I'm JT. Tonight we're on iRacing for round 2 of the Apex Esports League Spec Racer Ford Challenge, and tonight's round is Tsukuba Circuit 2000 full. So tonight's session, the drivers are heading over into 10 minutes of practice. Weather is mostly cloudy, and then we've got 10 minutes of qualifying. And then the main race is 40 minutes, and we have cap fuel at 47%, so the drivers will need to get in for a pit stop to be able to get through that race, and there is an ongoing weather variation of 20%. So after the first round, we have Blake Urquhart leading the championship, so with Sebastian Vandel closely behind, and then it was a very fantastic last lap battle between the two last week. So the results at Oran Park Raceway, we had Blake Urquhart qualify pole and take the victory, only to have Sebastian Vandel just lose that victory on that final lap by running out of fuel. But then Sebastian did set the fastest lap time, so it was a fantastic lap. So we'll be heading over to the track in just a moment. So I get some sound back on for the race. I'll load up in a moment. Probably waiting for some paintworks to show up as well. Unless that is all white, I'm not sure. And we're missing a few drivers tonight. We're missing Stephen Banks, Robbie Bradbury. We're missing Aaron Maguire and also Mark Horton. So only a few drivers there. We've got some of our regular names, a little bit of a lockup going on. Blake Urquhart, our championship leader. And this track's going to be very tricky and technical in these cars. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be some very close, tight passes to be able to try and get around on this rather narrow track in most passing places. And if you're joining us for the stream and you haven't done so yet, don't forget to hit that follow button. We appreciate the growing support for Apex Esports League and all of our members. We do broadcast iRacing on Monday nights, and then also Project Cars 2 on Thursday nights. Oh, big lock up for Blake. So his tyres a little bit cold still. And those brakes went up to temp as well. So we'll make our way down through the list. So we've got Aaron Thompson in the Clutch Kickers car. So he's missing his fellow clutch kicker, Mark Horton, who hasn't been able to make it. He said he will be jumping in on the stream. Oh, and here he is. He's in the chat. No worries, Mark. That's unfortunate. Crook neck. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be stirring that up. At least you're there to cheer on the clutch kickers still. And Sebastian Vandel will be one to look out for tonight. He was doing some amazing pace last week, and the exchanges he had between Blake on that final lap was spectacular. It was some very tight racing, and to only lose out that position on the final straight by running out of fuel was a very fine line. He did say it was through his crew chief not advising him enough fuel load. We have Lachlan Hewitt, the white car number 5, an easy one to pick out. Also have Matt Tesserio, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, I have to double check with him. I'm pretty sure it's maybe his debut race. He may have been in some of our events before we started broadcasting, but definitely first time on broadcast race, so welcome aboard, Matt. Vaselis in white car number 3. Him and Lachlan both in the white cars. So we've been doing pretty well with the matching team colours. So we are missing the Century Motorsports KFC team with Stephen and Robbie not being able to make it. First times coming through. Blake Urquhart setting a 1 minute 1.9. Aaron Thompson's only 0.2 off that pace. It's pretty tight for our first times on there. Neil Mackenzie also in with a very similar time to Aaron's. And for those that don't have chat, so Mark is in the chat and he's just saying he was getting 101s in practice. So some pretty good times. So it'll be good to see what these guys can bust out for the qualifying. Bit of traffic on this practice lap, considering we've only got the 7 cars out on track. With it being a rather short track, very narrow, it's still going to be plenty of action with only a half grid. So it would have made for some pretty intense action if we had had the full set of drivers on board tonight. So hopefully we'll see some of that action definitely next week when we have round 3. So we do go to Phoenix Raceway, 2008 Rogues course. So another technical track for these cars. It's going to be a lot of fun watching that race. So be sure to set a reminder in to jump in next week and see that for sure. Especially once we get our other regular drivers back on track, it's going to be some fantastic racing. So there's 30 seconds remaining of the practice session, and we'll head over into 10 minutes of qualifying. So we'll be giving the drivers probably about 8 or 9 solid laps to get that qualifying time set. So let's see, it's the final hairpin here coming onto the back straight. It's usually where a fair bit of carnage tends to happen. It's a very big opportunity to make a lot of passes there. If you can nail that corner, then you're going to have a pretty big advantage. Blake's practicing bringing that car into the pits. And then we have the session wrap up. Drivers are now loading to 10 minutes of qualifying. If you're on for the stream, don't be shy to say hello. You can see all the chat messages, and there's also sound effects controls down underneath, so you can play a variety of sound effects over the stream and then cheer on your favourite drivers. It doesn't cost any bits for all those main sound effects, so have some fun. We'll jump on board with a driver. We'll jump on board with Blake for a first lap around. Get those tyres up the temperature. Words backwards there. Down, along the back straight down into the final corner. Straight out onto that far exit curve. Ooh, a little bit too wide. Carried a lot of speed down into that, down to the first corner. Careful not to lock up. This is where we saw Blake lock up when we first were in the practice session. Cold tyres, cold brakes for that corner. As you turn in, it will start to slide. Flat out, hit that curb, use it to brake. Then to the first hairpin. It's always a very tricky corner on the first lap of the race as well. Very nice line. Up over onto that grass, use the full length of track so you can get down to that next exit curb, down to the final hairpin. Oh, it's a little bit slippery for him. That tail started to slide out. Won't be a spectacular lap time for him, but still will be pretty quick. So we're saying 101.9 in the practice. Playing with that throttle. That was, I think that counted for him. Ooh, a little bit loose there as well. That's going to be all narrowly avoids that wall that could have taken damage. So I don't think he got a time in for that lap, but no, it didn't count. I know it did count, so it was a 1:02. So Sebastian Vandel in with the quickest time for the first time lap. So 1:02.1 is pretty solid for first time. It's probably going to be definitely somewhat low 1:01s in the next few laps. And they could potentially be caught up in a little bit of traffic getting around as well, but they seem to be fairly well spaced out. So not sure who is the name that actually doesn't have a time. They've just been bumped down. So Sebastian's come through for 1:01.6. So it's Matt's name, well, his initials that aren't coming up. Not sure why some drivers' initials don't show up onto that. You have to check the coding for the overlays. Randomly does it for some of them. But Neil McKenzie not too far off that pole time. That's 0.2. Thompson yet to get a time on the board as well. Last lap showed 1:54, so there he goes, he gets a time on there. So gets him in the 6th quickest, 0.7 off of the pole time. A little bit of difference going in between all our drivers' times at this stage. Sebastian holding that pole. There we go, Blake's just come through with his first time laps. All drivers have got a time on the board. Blake's 0.199, just narrowly sneaking in front of Neil's time. So they're carrying a fairly good consistent pace between Sebastian, Blake and Neil. And we've also got Matt not too far off that pace. But it is only the first few laps, it's going to start improving. And the weather seems to have slightly cleared up a little bit. It did start off as mostly cloudy, but it seems to be a little bit less shade on the track. So track temperatures are probably going to start going up. So we could see some tighter lap times start appearing over the next couple of laps. Blake's snuck in with a pole time of 1:01.5. It's only 0.1 off. I don't think that was done with any drafting either. And if you join us for the streams and you are new to Apex eSports League, in the bottom of the screen is our Facebook link, so you can find out all our results and standings and any incident reports after the races. That way you can see how your favourite driver is faring in the championship. And then there's also our bit.ly/Apex ESL. That is a shortened link to our YouTube channel. All our past broadcasts get saved over there, so you can jump on there, have a look and see all our previous action. And there's plenty on there. There's a year's worth. Oh, big lock-up. Narrowly avoids wall contact. Blake's had a couple of good lucky pull-ups in time before nearly touching that rear into the wall. If you do have an Android phone, there is also the Apex eSports League Android apps. If you search in Google Play, you'll find the Apex eSports League app, and that has all links to all our streams and to our Discord if you want to get involved, plus be able to get involved in any of our racing. Plenty of information there, all results and standings as well, so be sure to check that out. Neil's parked that car up at the moment. Matt Deviation Knight doing pretty well with 5th quickest time out there. It's only 0.4 off. So we've only got 0.6 between the 7 cars on track. They have some very tight times. A little bit of a lock. I think that may have been Sebastian. No, that was Blake that was locking up down to turn 1. So there's 2 minutes remaining for drivers to get their last laps in. That pole position can easily be stolen away. There's not much to have to improve on to be able to get that pole time. Sebastian's only 100th of a second off. Well, thanks for joining us, Weaven. So Mark's personal best is a 101.124. That would have been a very competitive time. Would be a pole position time for sure. Neil's still parked that car up. So his matching car colour out there is Lachlan. It's currently running 6th. I think Blake has managed to improve on his time. Sebastian's doing some pretty consistent pace. His best is 101.69. His last lap of 101.73. All drivers faster than previous times, pretty well consistent. So we're seeing some very consistent pace out there. It's going to be fantastic to see over the course of the race. 45 seconds left of qualifying. Aaron with clutch kickers. He's doing very well with third quickest time. His last lap was a 102.33. His fastest 101.8. He's only going to shave off 100th of a second and he will steal that time away. Just marginally it would be. He's almost 100th of a second completely. There we go. Qualifying is complete. So drivers needing to finish up their last laps. Matt and Blake are heading off into the pits. That's it for them. Hey Mick, thanks for joining us, mate. To last lap, can he steal away pole position on this final lap? It's coming very quick. Could be too quick. Will he go out a little wide? Uses that full length. It's a very nice line. Oh, he does. He steals pole position on the last lap of 101.4. That's a very good improvement. Neil didn't get back out for most of that, so that's qualifying complete. So we now have a 40-minute race up ahead. It's going to be pretty tight with only a difference of 0.8 between 7 cars. So they are doing very well. There's Sebastian doing a bit of a victory burnout for stealing that pole away. I'm sure Sebastian and Blake are probably going to be giving a pretty good show for us tonight, as we saw in last week's round. I was trying to get that to spool up again, but couldn't quite get it there. So Sebastian takes pole. Blake, it always just messes me up once I jump over into that a little bit late. We have Sebastian with pole position. Drivers got a couple of minutes to get their cars ready and grid up. drivers do miss hitting that grid button, they will have to start from the pits. Hopefully no issues. They do miss that once they've all hit ready before that countdown. We'll start getting the lights up on screen ready to wave that green flag. There we go, we've got everyone ready. Lights about to drop for round 2. The Spec Racer Ford Challenge.
Green, green, green.
There we go, the lights are green. A little bit of a delayed start to most, are playing quite cautious. So the track is probably cooled off a little bit. It's started to get quite shady down pit straight. We're playing very cautious coming down into turn 1. Sebastian gets away to a very nice start. Blake sitting very tight on his tail, however. Let's see who pulls away quickest out of the first hairpin. It's usually where it gets most of them. Sebastian a little bit slow on that exit. Then he's in a very good position for the next line, but Blake is still looking to try and go for an outside pass. He's going to be in a very good position for the next hairpin. Unless Sebastian can do a switch back. There's a fair lock now there, side by side coming out of corner exit. There's also Aaron Thompson sitting in behind. And Neil McKenzie has closed in very quick behind. These three are sitting very tight. Blake's looking to get around. Oh, I'm not sure if that was a little bit of a nudge coming into the final corner. Aaron is positioning himself up along that inside line, potentially to get up around Blake. He carried a lot more speed into turn 1. I think he may be struggling with some green tyres at the moment. Blake seems to be a little bit slippery. We found that in the first few laps he was having in the practice and qualifying as well. You can see Aaron's got some pretty good pace. Great throttle control coming out of that hairpin. Seems to be where we saw Aaron really close that ground in on Blake. Can he do it again? Could potentially be a pass. Yeah, a little bit slippery still for Blake. And we got Sebastian still flying out ahead. Starting to pull away from Blake. He's now leading by 0.7. And the whole grid is pretty tight. It's only 4.4 seconds separating the 7 cars. So they're doing pretty well, and a very nice clean first 2 laps to the race. And then all of them are holding some spectacular pace with each other. Blake's positioning himself to go for a pass down along the back straight. Didn't carry enough speed into that final corner to follow through on pit straight. Will be a little bit slippery for Blake that turn. No, much more grip this time around. So his tyres have got a lot more stick to it on lap 3. Can Sebastian hold him off now that that car's not slipping as much? A little bit of a wider line by Sebastian. Blake took a much tighter line through the first hairpin. See, fair bit of slip still in that final hairpin for Blake. Car isn't really liking the more sharper corners. Sebastian seems to be able to really coast through. Yeah, a little bit of tyre squeal. Car wanting to drift right out. We'll see what's going on for him as he comes into these sharper corners. You can see a little snap in the car. very slippery for him. Sort of, that's a setup issue going wrong for Blake. The car doesn't seem to be holding too well in the hairpin. So it's going to be beneficial for Sebastian at this point. It's 5 minutes into the race. He's getting a fairly good lead, keeping some very consistent laps. Fastest lap out there so far is a 1:01.433, and that's set by Sebastian. That's only 0.033 quicker than Blake's best time out there so far. Aaron Thompson's dropped off a little bit. He was still holding a fairly tight line behind Blake, but Blake started to pull away. So that last lap by Aaron was almost half a second slower than Blake's, which is why he's dropped off just momentarily. I'm sure he'll rein that gap in a little bit more. Well, Blake's looking to get up along inside of Sebastian. Sebastian can get a very good line through that first hairpin. Let's see if he can make up for it coming into this corner. This is where we've seen him really pull away from Blake. Doesn't get away as quick at that time. Blake's really closed that gap in on the straight. That is very close. He's getting a lovely draft. He's going to be able to slingshot that around pretty well. He's going to have to position himself very strongly down to turn one. He's got the track position that could potentially lock him up as well. He's going to have to be very careful. Nice clean pass. It gets around Sebastian, but only just. I think Sebastian may have actually backed off just a little bit to let him through. He wasn't going to fiercely defend that just yet. It's only the first 7 minutes. It's not worth risking incident at this stage. And then we've got information in the chat. Sebastian Blake coming off the top 10 in the 24-hour Le Mans on the weekend. So fantastic there. Doing the 24 hours, the 12 hours, but grueling enough, let alone a full 24-hour. So kudos to them to be able to come through and still be able to be pulling off some spectacular driving. A little bit slippery for Sebastian coming down through turn one. Let's see how the rest of the grid's going at the moment. So we have currently Neil in 7th position. We have Neil McKenzie closing in on Tony. That's currently in 6th position. Followed up is Tony in 5th. Matt debuting with us tonight in 4th position. He's got a little bit of a safety net between him and Tony. There's 4 seconds, and he's got a few seconds till he catches up to Aaron. Sebastian dropping back a little bit now. Blake starting to really pull through. And thanks, Alice, for following. Appreciate the growing support for Apex. Oh, a very wide line by both of them. We just had Sebastian follow Blake out. It tends to happen when you're following such close positions. Oh, big slide by Blake coming into turn one. That's just cost him the position. He doesn't take damage. He's going to lose another position to Aaron, but I think he's just positioned himself up alongside of him. He's going to have the inside advantage to the hairpin, both locking that right rear. Forcing both of them to go to either side of the track. Both drivers saving that very nicely. Has cost them a bit of time. It's been favourable for Matt. Matt has now closed that gap in. He's only a couple of seconds away from these two. And it's helped Sebastian, so he's been able to put out a nice lead. He's got 0.391 on Blake after that mistake. So 10 minutes into the race. did see drivers use their mandatory pit pretty late on last week. And we're starting to see a bit of sun come out now. Track temps will start to improve. So session time started in the afternoon, so it would have been fairly cool temperatures first off, especially in the practice and qualifying, which we saw a fair bit of slip going on quite early on. So now that these track temperatures are getting up, these cars are getting quite grippy. So I can put down some very tidy times. Fastest time out there so far is a 101.148, and that's by Sebastian. And then the next quickest is a 101.183, and that is Blake. That is very tight. They're very consistent pace. So if these two were paired off in the Le Mans 24 hours, it's a very good match between these two. They've got some very good similar driving and pace. So congrats to Sebastian and Blake. Blake starting to try and get that gap in on Sebastian. He's not too far off, he's only 2.4 seconds. He'll be able to close that in over the course of the race for sure. Aaron's dropped off just a little bit. We have Matt in 4th position. He's only a couple of seconds still away from Aaron. Lap times very nice as well. Quickest lap at 101.662. Last lap around was a 101.713. Quickest time set around the last lap was Sebastian. That was a 101.263. But all our drivers' last laps were either 101 or 102, so very quick times. They're keeping some very consistent lap times out there. Sebastian's pushed that lead out to 3 seconds now. He was a whole half a second quicker than Blake last lap. A little bit of slip going on for Blake, a couple of slips. Then having to do some throttle control on that corner exit. That's going to allow Aaron Thompson to close in and potentially have a shot at him. With Aaron with clutch kickers. It's a very tidy line through the hairpin. Oh, you would be, Mike, itching to get out on track. Especially throwing down some very quick 101s. That would have been fantastic to see an extra car out there battling. Great to see all very consistent times between everyone at the moment. Thanks for some great racing. Cheer going on for Aaron as he comes around onto pit straight. Oh no, it's been a spin into turn 1. That's going to allow Matt to get through. He doesn't take any damage. That could have gone a lot worse. He's back out on track. He's got plenty of time between him and Tony. He's going to have to get away pretty quickly. He's lucky he escaped any damage. That now allows Matt to move up into position 3. So he's got a little bit of time. I think there's about 5 seconds between him and Aaron now. That's cost him some time over the course of a 40-minute race. That's not going to be too much of an issue. He's still in a very good position. race leader Sebastian starting to disappear out the front. Just be a corner ahead of Blake currently. Some very consistent lines. He hasn't been able to really fault at all so far in the first 15 minutes of this race, so doing very well. Blake be able to focus in a little bit more now. He doesn't have Aaron sitting pretty close behind him. So he's got 4 seconds between him and third position, with Matt running third. So doing well with his debut race. It's off to a very good start. Aaron's still got Tony sitting 2 seconds behind him. Oh, no, not now. I think it's almost the same corner where we saw Aaron go for a spill as well. And as we are approaching the halfway mark, could potentially be seeing a little bit of tyre wear. And the car's probably getting a little bit light on fuel as well. So Tony bringing that car in, didn't take any damage. He's probably going to go get a set of rubbers and some fuel into the car. Sebastian in the chat beforehand was, or in the lobby, was wanting to know if he could be able to get through without a pit stop, if he can get enough drafting, but he's not going to get that opportunity now while he's leading out in front. I think it would have been pretty tight to try and conserve the fuel to last out the 40 minutes. I think the most that you'd get is at least 3/4 of the way through. That's what I tried to aim for, to force the cars to actually have to pit, just to make things more interesting. If he can slog it out without requiring any additional fuel, good on him if he'll can try that. Probably want to after the bad luck he had in the opening round, running out of fuel on the final corner and just rolling across the finish line, allowing Blake to get past. That was a fantastic race. If you didn't get to see that, be sure to head back in our previous videos in Twitch, and it's also on YouTube as well. Tony in 7th position. He has been in pit. It was a 20.7 second pit stop, so it would have been fuel and most likely tyres. Currently have Lachlan sitting in 6th position. He's got Neil not too far ahead of him. Over to Aaron. Currently sitting in 4th position. And Matt doing well in 3rd. He's got a good 8 seconds or so between him and Aaron currently. 7 seconds between him and Blake. To be able to really focus in and try and get those lap times down, see if he can close that gap in on Blake. It's about half a second off of his previous time. However, his best lap time's only 0.1 difference between him and Blake, so definitely possibility he could close in on Blake. And pit stops could make or break the race as well. So some traffic coming up now, that could slow down things. Pretty sure that would be, that's not Neil, it must be Tony. Just lost my comparison thing. I didn't even notice how long it'd been missing for. And we have Sebastian needing to get around Tony. That could potentially slow up that gap and allow Blake to start closing in. He goes for a wider line. Oh, Tony's just gone off for a slide. Doesn't make contact. This is a little bit off the line. potentially slid into Sebastian we had last week. A close call, not sure who it was. Very close call with a back marker spinning out just ahead of Sebastian and Blake. Ooh, there's contact. That's a big hit. He's just towed that car in. Managed to clear that track in time. And Neil's just in front of the pit entry, so that was lucky. So Tony just retired out, so he took quite a hit there. That was quite unfortunate. So it's allowed Blake to catch up just a little bit. It did slow Sebastian up a smidge. These two will probably be looking at pitting in the next few minutes. It's Blake heading into the pits now. Sebastian stays out on track. That last set by Sebastian, a 1:1.5, some still very quick times. Matt also stays out on track. He now moves up into second position. Blake would be close to getting out now. And Neil having had his car fixed up. So unfortunately that is his second pit. And that was a lengthier time, so 49.4 seconds. So Sebastian really trying to push out that lead ahead of having to get in and serve that pit. Hopefully he gets the right amount of fuel to be put in this time so he doesn't lose out just to running out of fuel on that very final stretch. Sounded like a contact. Oh, that's contact with Sebastian. I'm not sure who that was. I think it's Lachlan's car. I think he is stuck.
Caution, yellow flag.
So safety car will be out. See what quite happens, see if I can find back. Anyway. That's unfortunate for Sebastian being hit. Sebastian taking a fair bit of damage. It's allowed Matt to now be out in the lead. Yeah, it wasn't a bit of an issue with a blue flag there for sure. However, in iRacing's conduct, it is up to the faster drivers to make sure to go around. And the drivers being shown the blue flag are just to maintain their line, but you should at least drop pace off. So when you go to exit that corner, you maintain the normal racing line, but just do not throttle out as you would normally do. Just allow that quicker car to accelerate out quicker, get around you, and then maintain that race pace. And the good thing is you can then tuck in behind that draft of the car that's just gone past. road's still open. Matt makes the most of it, heading into serve his pit now. Sebastian's been able to rejoin in third position, so he's done pretty well. Should be one more lap to go. Drivers are going to try and keep some temp into the tyres. So it has started to cloud over a bit. It's allowed the pack to close in. Going to be some tight racing to be seen in the restart. Start is meant to be. So it's double file lap cars to the back. Pace car should be getting ready to peel off. One more lap. Sure, it's going to do 2 laps around. Drivers now getting into position. This will be the last time around, ready for the start. Oh, contact at the back. That is Sebastian's made a nick. I think that's on... I'm not sure whose car that is. That's Neil's car. Try and catch back up. That was a pretty solid hit as he was trying to get around him. Big house going on at the back during the yellow flag. Gearing up to go now. As they approach onto the final back straight. The pace car will be in. We've seen some really pushed limits in restarts. They cannot pass until they have crossed the start line. We've seen some spectacular passes done by Sebastian in restarts before. He's basically passed at the start line, so very close to doing it. In comes the pace car. Likes to set the pace for the restart. Goes through, gets away for a very good start. Blake set a very good pace. It's allowed Aaron Thompson to fall back just a little bit. Sebastian gets along wide. We've almost got 3 wide coming down to turn 1. There's a big slide. I think there's been contact at the back. I think it's Neil McKenzie. Not sure if there was a touch at all. There's a bit of smoke coming from the back of Lachlan's car. Blake gets away nicely now. He's put out a pretty solid lead. Aaron's hanging in. He's 0.6 off of Blake's time. He's got Matt Tresario sneaking up on him very quickly, however. There's a white car down the back there, really slowing up. Doesn't seem like Neil's car is really putting up some good pace. He may be having some issues with that car. And falling behind from Blake. Matt's closing in pretty quickly. All drivers have pit besides Lachlan. I think Lachlan's just peeled. No, he hasn't peeled off. He's in the pits currently, so getting that serve. He's got a fair bit of damage to that car. Drivers do have fast repairs, so they can have the car repaired instantly. However, it will take time if the car requires towing. And then tyres and fuel will be lengthy. Got Matt really closing in on Aaron. Aaron could be in trouble here. He may have to start considering some defensive lines. Very quick driving by Matt. A little bit slippery on that exit curb. Dropped a wheel off into the dirt. That did cost him a bit of speed coming onto the next corner. Comes in a lot quicker than Aaron into the hairpin. Bit of a hung gear. Throttle control coming into the final corner. Brilliant lap by Matt. Race leader Blake and championship leader as well, now leading by 2.8 seconds. We have Sebastian making his way back up after being turned around in that incident. And it'll be interesting to see what happened with the contact on the safety lap as well. Could go against him. We'll have to review and see what was going on. And that spin on the restarted lap. Sebastian gets up alongside of Matt. Very nice pass, almost a switchback for Matt. Matt carries a lot more speed, tucks back in behind Sebastian. Wasn't enough to slingshot around into the final corner. Sebastian doing well, clawing back up into third position. He's got a very good shot at being able to get back out into the race lead. Still is only 3.2 seconds away from the race leader. Very tight line. He's sitting right on the tail of Aaron. Very nice position down into the hairpin. Oh, that is a fantastic pass by Sebastian. Almost a switchback from Aaron. Aaron's probably going to have a better position coming down the final corner. Will he yield? He does yield. Sebastian stays out on a much quicker path around the final corner. Brilliant driving by Sebastian. Now moved back up into second position. Misjudged the first corner. He had a little bit too much speed coming down in there. He was carrying a lot of speed down that straight. That was a fantastic lap by Sebastian. Blake's probably going to be for some trouble here. Sebastian's going to be closing that gap in on him very quickly. He was a good half-second quicker last lap around than what Blake was. There's 5.5 minutes remaining. If he keeps up that pace, he's going to close that 3 seconds in very quickly. Everyone's been in for their pits. Hopefully Sebastian's got enough fuel to get through the race, so we don't see a repeat of last week. These three are still battling it out for position 2. Aaron hasn't given up on that position 2 just yet. He's also got Matt breathing down his neck, looking to get around him as well. Blake was a little bit quicker that time around by 0.2. Very fast line for Sebastian, using that full curb on exit. That's starting to slip back away from Aaron. Check out the rest of the field. So we have Lachlan Hewitt in 6th position. I think that is Blake that's coming up on him as well, so it could potentially slow things down. It'll be favourable for Sebastian if that does slow Blake up, as he has to try and get a nice line to get around. To catch up to Lachlan's car. Lachlan's pace a little bit slow at the moment. He may have a bit of damage to the car. Lachlan's only been into the pits once, and it was only for half a second. So he could potentially have to go in again. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough fuel for him to be able to last through the race. He's probably going to have to head in again soon. If that is the case, that will then allow an open track for Blake to move through without being caught up too much. So Sebastian's rounding that gap down to Blake by 2.2 seconds now. There's 3 minutes remaining. So if the current lap times, essentially that's 3 more laps and then it's done. We had a fierce battle between Blake and Sebastian on the final lap last week. Could it be the same again? Lachlan holding some pretty good pace out there still. Will be on Blake to get it around cleanly. Oh, there's contact again. That's a big spill. That's a huge spin. Sebastian's going to be able to close in now. So we'll check that replay, what was going on for Lachlan. So they were pretty sitting tight. He was holding that line. And a little bit of a rub from Blake turned him back around in front of him. That potentially could be an incident at fault of Blake. Sebastian dropped back a little bit as well. Not sure what went on for Sebastian. He did set this, the fastest lap on lap 29 at 101.033, so nearly breaking the 101 mark, almost seeing the 1 minute. That is very quick. So we'll have a look and see what happened for Sebastian. So he did a little bit too quick spinning that car out. That's unfortunate for Sebastian. Allowing Blake to be able to have a pretty solid lead. He's got 3 seconds. It's going to be pretty safe with only 30 seconds remaining. So I don't think it'll be white flag. No, we'll probably get one more lap in. So it goes by the server, allowing for an hour's time for all racing. So if they've got to the grids a little bit quicker, you usually get an extra lap out of it. So white flag will be coming up now. This is the last lap. Aaron and Matt are still battling it out for position 2. Matt's looking to get around. And we will be chatting with the full podium tonight as well, so be sure to hang on around for the end of it and have a chat to our drivers. You can ask some questions. And Aaron and Matt are only 3 seconds away from Blake. Managed to hold a pretty good gap. Matt may look for a potential one. We've just had Blake cross the line. Congratulations to Blake. Aaron's just got to hold on and block him on this straight. It's not enough speed to be able to get past, so well done Aaron, P2. Matt takes 3rd position. Sebastian, a fantastic drive. Some bad luck, costing him potential victory. He had it in the bag, essentially. And Matt contact costing him dearly with having to head in for those repairs. So we have Neil coming up in 5th. Congratulations to the Neil in 5th. Lachlan is in 6th and Tony retired in 7th position. So there we have the conclusion of round 2. So end of round 2 after 37 laps, we have Blake Urquhart take the win, followed by the rest of the podium is Aaron Thompson in P2 and Matt Tesorio in 3rd position. So doing well for his debut race there, and some unlucky luck for Sebastian Vardell taking 4th position. And we have Neil McKenzie in 5th, Lachlan Hewitt in 6th and Tony Vaselis in 7th. So we'll be bring the guys on for a chat in just a moment. If I can unmute myself, that might help as well. And then we have Aaron and Blake in the chat.
Hey, how you going?
Yeah, congratulations on the race.
Thank you.
Jeez, mate. Bit of an effort.
Yeah, it's almost a bit scary towards that back end as well, getting spun out in towards that wall. I think it was from Lachlan's car after the safety car, so very close there.
Yeah, I nearly fenced that. I was full lock for that corner. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then some bad luck for what started the safety car as well. Sebastian getting quite a pretty heavy hit, then allowed you to close that gap in with the safety car.
Tell you what, that safety car made my day. I wasn't catching those guys without it.
Yeah, and you got a very good jump at the restart as well and managed to hang on, and that's a fantastic drive.
Yep.
Cheers again, mate. Another great race.
Yep, so then 2 in the bag for the Spec Racer Fords. And then we're off to Phoenix next week.
Look forward to it.
Yep, look forward to seeing the battle with you guys.
That'd be good.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
And then we have the conclusion of round 2 with Blake taking victory in round 2. So it's now 2 wins for the series. So it's going to be a nice lead for the championship. And then next week, of course, we have for round 3 Phoenix Raceway 2008 road course. So it's going to be some very interesting racing going on for Phoenix Race. It's going to be very tight. So be sure to check out our Facebook page as well. You can actually see all the reports from the incidents. So the replays will be reviewed and then penalties could be applied. So there was some incidents there that may have even been probably go to some of our race leader as well with the turnaround on the back end of the race. So our full incident reports do get all posted up onto the Facebook page, so you can see the results and standings and read through the incidents and see what happened. Otherwise, you will see all the penalties and standings as we enter into round 3, but it is always makes for a good interesting read to see what we found after reviewing any of the accidents. So thanks for joining us tonight, and I hope to see you trackside next week. Don't forget to hit that follow button. We do have racing going on Thursday night as well for Project Cars 2, so plenty of action there to see in the Group A touring cars, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for tuning in and see you next week.